Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thank you for joining me. It's Saturday night, so we're doing our live readings on the channel. So those of you guys who are just tuning in, we're gonna be doing all readings by donation. So thanks for joining me. Do me a favor, make sure if you're not already subscribed, you hit the subscribe button so we know when new videos are coming out on the channel. We've seen lots of traction, new people kind of showing up on the channel, comments, all kinds of stuff. Thank you guys for your support. Obviously, with these readings, any donations that you guys are making for the readings are going to go back into the channel, making it possible for me to have study time, creating content, and all kinds of stuff for you guys. So thank you for spending your Saturday night with me. Just a heads up to those of you guys who are members, this is going to be the last live for the month of April. I will not be doing a live next Saturday. I'm usually here every Saturday, but I'm not going to be available. So we will be returning on May the 7th, and that's when we're going to be coming back and doing tarot. So if you guys don't see me next week, now you know why. So hopefully we catch up with all of the level 3 people this weekend. Just a heads up and a big thank you also to all of the supporters for the channel, anybody who is a level 2 or a level 3. So Deanna, Paula, Ms. Fogel, Jackie, Catherine, Angeli, Hera, Nancy, Phoenix, Jessica, Emma, Susan. Thank you guys for your support. The list only gets longer. It's awesome to be able to read for you guys. That's the benefit of being a level 2 or 3. You're going to get a shout out. And if you're level 3, not only do you support the channel, but you're going to get one reading from me once a month on one of my live shows on Saturdays. So generally, we're always here Saturdays, 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Obviously, adjust your time zone. But you're going to get a reading for one of these memberships if you're level 3. We also take level 3 subscribers first. So I noticed we've got Deanna. What's up, girl? I will definitely do your reading for you. I know we've got Rome also that already made a donation. Aloha. Happy birthday, Jocelyn. Thanks for joining us. If your name differs on PayPal versus your YouTube name, please let me know. And just a heads up, guys, to make this process move more swiftly, when you make a donation, it is really important that you put your birthday. I need the year, I need the exact time, AM or PM, the city, and the state or country that you were born in. Please let me know and let me know what your question is about. So you can ask whatever you want. We can look at timing. So if you're like, hey, what is my workout looking like? What does it look like for moves, relocations? If you have questions about a particular aspect, this is a great way to learn about astrology. And if you guys are wondering how to make a donation, there is a QR code right here. You can scan that. It takes you immediately to the PayPal where you can donate. It's $40 for any question regarding to astrology, $65 if you have questions about Synastry. So thank you for letting me get all of that out there. We'll go ahead and start with Deanna, and then Rome, I have your info, so let me know. I can also plug in, well, we're waiting for you to send your info. Once you send that to me, you can send it in the chat then and ask me your question. I can plug that in. So we'll go ahead and start with Deanna, who wants to cash in on her monthly reading. All right, girl, so let's get into it. Looks like we've got you here, January 2nd, 78. And that was at 7:55 p.m. in Inglewood. Okay, January 2nd, 78, cool. So let's pull up your chart and see what we've got going on here. Don't have anything pressing, just wondering what I would look forward to with my love life. Met a guy, seems promising. Finally got the website up and start promoting once the school year is over in June. Exciting. I'm so excited to see that for you. All right, cool. So let's take a look. So you have some questions about the love life stuff. Well, I will tell you that your 7th house Saturn transit. So if you guys are learning to kind of look at transits, the outer wheel is transiting planets. The inner wheel is her natal. So she's a Leo rising, Sun in Capricorn in the 6th. Excuse me, it looks like it's in the 6th. It's in the 5th house. And her moon is in Libra in the 3rd. One thing to pay attention to is that, you know, tomorrow the moon's going to cross Saturn. It's coming into a square with Mercury. So I talked a little bit about this on tomorrow's Astro Weather, that like Sunday, Monday are difficult communication days. It can be feeling like it's a bit of like a pile up of planets that are all coming into some challenging squares with each other, especially when it comes to emotionally relating. So just a heads up, like over the weekend, there can be like not hearing from somebody as consistently. They could be busy. There could be kind of some conflicting schedules and stuff like that. And I don't say that to scare you. For the most part, actually, Saturn going through your 7th house is nice because it's trining your natal moon. And it's also making positive aspects to like your natal Neptune and your North Node and your midheaven. So there are some things kind of going on that makes me feel like it is supporting for the most part. But your 7th house is going to get kind of dinged up with the eclipse that's going to be happening in mid-May. So when we have the lunar eclipse in Scorpio, it's going to be a full moon. You're going to see that the moon is going to be at the most southern part of your chart. The sun is going to be in Taurus, and it's going to square Saturn in the 7th house. So Saturn will be the apex of that, what will be a grand fixed square because you're a Leo rising. On one hand, I think having, you know, the ascendant factor into that, it's going to make the whole chart of the whole wheel of the chart move. So like a grand fixed cross can push things to shift for you, for your home, for your career, for your relationships. So you'll see change all around. But Saturn almost to me feels like it's a defining line, right? It can be a boundary. It can be an important relationship. It can be an important connection. Saturn in Aquarius makes me feel like there is this theme of like learning how to do relationships differently, right? So something about doing relationships differently comes up here. Pay attention to when this eclipse happens, because while it will be squaring Saturn in your 7th, that it's going to diffuse by trining your moon. And it's about like tuning into your intuition, right? Because your moon is the 12th house lord. So there can be this unexpected conversation where you're laying all of your cards out on the table and you're really kind of communicating and expressing where there's been relationship breakdown in the past, what makes you anxious about commitment, getting something off your chest. It could also be a situation where there is a release happening, right? You're like releasing any inhibitions that you've had from old relationship issues, and kind of stepping into a relationship where there's more vulnerability, right? So it's like, hey, I just want to let you know this has happened in the past. This is what's kind of scary. I want to talk it through with you so I'm not getting triggered. Or it could be, hey, I'm getting a little overwhelmed. I got a lot of stuff going on with work right now. I'm kind of moving some bits and pieces around at home, and you know, I'm just kind of swamped. It's not that I don't want to talk to you. I've just got a lot going on. When in doubt, communicate, because those trines are going to really play very nicely with your moon and also your natal Jupiter. So it's going to help you express intimacy, talk about where you're afraid, things like that. Eclipses that are going to be squaring Saturn can feel like there is like a leveling up and like needing more maturity in a relationship. Equally, the eclipse that's happening in about a week is going to conjunct Uranus right on your midheaven, and Uranus is the ruler of your 7th house. So it's very clear that there's something about your identity changing in the world, right? There is a sense of like, well, maybe I'm not completely single for much longer. How do I feel about the possibility of entering into a relationship? Is this challenging? Is there a sense of seriousness connected with this person? Is it a more mature connection than what you're used to? Is it different? On the flip side, I think also all of the eclipses really being connected very much to your midheaven is also this shift, and you're kind of going through this identity change where you're presenting yourself differently out into the world. So if it's shifting from education to being a business owner, being a creative, being somebody who's putting a different face onto the world, there's just a lot of you adapting to being very different. So there can also be this sense of you having an identity crisis and being like, wait a second, who am I? Am I even recognizing myself anymore, right? Especially because this eclipse is very much embodying, especially the new moon eclipse that's on the 30th, your Uranus opposition. So your Uranus opposition is starting. It's the now or never transit. It's like, I haven't done this in the past, so I'm going to do this now. And to me, it looks like it's about kind of wearing your tin hat in the world and being more Uranian, right? It's on your midheaven. Here's the cool, crazy things that I'm designing. Here's the jewelry. Here's this, here's that. and not feeling so tied up with what other people think. So you're letting go of some of your inhibitions. And that eclipse, being that you are ruled by the sun and you're having a solar eclipse exactly opposite to Uranus, tells me that everything is changing. You are now learning how to integrate more of your private life and your personal life out into the world. And it's like you're flying your freak flag and you're like, take it or leave it. This is who I am. So you're letting any inhibitions go, revolving around your true authentic self. That eclipse also trines your sun. Oh man, the next two eclipses are very personal for you. The trine to your sun is wonderful. The opposition to Uranus makes me feel like maybe it's also like, how do you feel bringing somebody into your house, right? Has your Scorpio 4th house layer been your private little home zone? Do you have your own altars and rituals and things that you do? Do you have all of your spiritual things up on the wall or your altar spaces? And you're like, I got to bring a man home. What are they going to think? You know, is he going to think I'm weird because of all of this jewelry and all these things that I have that I'm making, that I'm working on? So something about integrating relationships into your private life and bringing more of your private life out into the world. So take it easy on yourself. It's exciting. Nevertheless, I think the solar eclipse in Taurus is a very exciting one. It's the kickoff to what's going to be 6 months of you having your first experience with your Uranus opposition. I think that, like I said, it's now or never. So where you've been reluctant to communicate and share some of your inner world, now you're like, here it is, take it or leave it. So just be authentic. Don't be too freaked out about that. I definitely think that, you know, having all these planets in Pisces, like Venus and all this stuff still trining your 4th house, it also makes me feel like there's really good juju going on in the home, right? There's like a lot of more positivity that is flowing with the space. That Jupiter, Neptune, Venus trine to Uranus on your IC is like, there's been lots of cleansing. There's been lots of playing music. There's been lots of burning things, wiping down counters and like kind of just trying to get the vibes up in the space. So you may be surprised that if somebody walks into your house, they're going to be like, oh, I kind of like it here, you know? So that's like other people. And all those planets in your 8th house also are really good for like sex and intimacy. So it can be kind of like Stella's getting her groove back a little bit. Very sexy energy for Leo risings with Venus and Jupiter, Neptune in the 8th. It can definitely be really good to integrate lots of like essential oils or perfumes or different scents or smells or like different kind of like magical things that you can be burning or like actually washing your body with. That can be really great for attraction, right? So especially anything that deals with like oils or like baths, like soaks in general. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. I would just say be mindful that, to me, it seems like what will come in mid-May is going to be a conversation about like, okay, well, this is what I've dealt with in the past and this is where I've been. And like, let me share with you, you know, some of the concerns that I've had about commitment. But Saturn on your, you know, on your descendant, it's going to go back and forth a couple times, and you have a 20 degrees descendant in Aquarius. So it's Aquarius, but it's Scorpio energy. So it tells me that the person who you end up with, you're going to be very, like, they're going to be into this stuff. Like, they're going to accept this stuff, right? Because you have to understand, part of your Uranus opposition is also meeting new people, because it's the ruler of your 7th house. So it's getting you out of the house, getting you out into the world. Worst case scenario, you're going to make some new friends. You know, best case scenario, you're going to end up meeting somebody who's like really cool with just you being your authentic self. Stay the path. Know that this year, like I've said, for all the fixed sign risings, every three months, something's going to change. So there isn't really a sense of like you deciding whether or not you're meshing with somebody really until closer to July or August. So when planets are getting into Leo and they're opposing Saturn and they're squaring Uranus, you know, that's the closing kind of square, and you decide whether or not it's going to work for you. And if it is, then you're going to realize that going into the fall, it's about more openness, more vulnerability, more togetherness, kind of playing house. But good things around the way. It's very, very exciting. You have to let me know what happens. And I'm also really excited to see that Uranus is in a trine with this eclipse to your sun. So it is promising that it is going to bring more romance and opportunities for dating into your life. So come back. Let me know what happens. Very excited to see all that stuff. Don't worry about all the weird stuff. Tons of scrubs and incense always burning. Got an altar. Yeah, perfect. I have Uranus on my IC natally, so I know what that's like. You should see my house. It's out there. Whenever you have Uranus that's in the 4th house or very close to the southern part of the chart, it's very private. You know, not a lot of people would know all the weird and funky and spiritual astrological things that you got going on in your house. It isn't until your Uranus opposition that you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna let my freak flag fly. So good for you, girl. All right, so let's get into this. I saw Rome came back. Okay. Let's see. Where did he go? There we go. I sent 2. Okay, I have 2 reads. 9/15/82, my girlfriend of 8 months just left me and I need to move again. I have no idea what to do. Any info about what's going to happen, what next would be appreciated. My chart or her chart. Okay, so let me see. So was that just yours or is that a Synastry? Okay, well we can do both. So give me 1 second. I'll plug both of the charts and then we'll go from there. So give me just a second. So I'm going to look at your chart first. And that's 9/15/82. And that was at 7:33 p.m. And that was Laguna. Laguna Beach. All right, Rome. So let's see what's going on with your chart. And then we'll look at hers. 7:33 p.m. Laguna Beach. Okay, so Aries rising. And we'll look at hers in just a second. Okay. Aries rising. Venus is the ruler of your 7th house of relationships. Venus is in the 12th, coming into conjunction with Neptune, and it's trining out through your Mars. So a relationship is ending, right? So you've got the 4th, 8th, and 12th house are water houses, like naturally, even if you were in an Aries rising. So believe it or not, like the Mars, Venus, Neptune stuff in the 12th house is not always like the romantic connections that people make it out to be. Sometimes it can be that a relationship is ending. The other thing that I'm noticing also is that, you know, you're still kind of in the midst of like your Pluto square. So, you know, 82 and 83, you guys are still experiencing Pluto square Pluto. So you're definitely working out of like a lot of karma relating to relationships in general. So let's start off with your first question. So you need to move again. You have no idea what to do in info. Okay, so living situation, there's a couple things going on here. One is your home, like your actual home is always going to be connected to the moon. So recently, the last couple of days, Mars, your chart ruler, has been in the 12th house in Pisces of things you don't see coming, opposing your moon. So it's kind of like, okay, something comes out from underneath you. You didn't see this, you know, coming your way, and you find out that you're actually having to move Mars from your home moon. Mars is also in opposition to your Venus, and that opposition has not hit exactly yet. When Mars comes into an opposition with your Venus, that may very well be like you trying to work it out with her. You want to watch for getting really emotionally worked up on the 25th, okay? Moon Mars is going to come together, and it tells me that you're almost going to like try to push to make it work. And she may push back and be like, no, I'm good. That energy is going to hold until about the 30th, and then you have an eclipse. And that eclipse is going to be in Taurus. Now, whole sign, it's your 2nd house, so it's about starting over new when it comes to money and resources. But Placidus-wise, it's in your 1st house, and that eclipse is going to be in opposition to your natal Jupiter, ruler of the 9th house. My dude, you can't be having a situation where you and her are going back and forth and it turns into conflict, because it could literally materialize as like somebody calling the cops. Just trust me on this. especially with Jupiter at an 8. Like there could be a situation where you're getting really intense because you're like, I'm just trying to work this out with you. Give me a chance. Why won't you let me work it out with you? Like, let's talk about this, right? Let me scroll down and see your comments. Okay. And then you also said, she's also pregnant with my baby. I think it's mine at least. So life is crazy. I think she's cheating on me right after she got pregnant. We'll look at her chart in a second. This is a hot mess. Children equally for you is also technically, because of Placidus, it's your moon. Because if you look at the cusp of your 5th house, that's also Cancer. Some people would argue and say that's the sun and it's Leo. Honestly, you've got Neptune and Jupiter still in opposition to your sun. So I would question whether or not that actually is your kid, just being honest. Because Neptune, 7 houses away in your 12th in opposition to your sun, literally could mean that it's pregnant, but she may not know if that's your kid. It won't be until Mars opposes your sun that I think that you're able to kind of like find out whether or not that, you know, you guys can work through this. The problem is when Mars comes into an opposition with your sun, it's going to conjunct Neptune and it's going to square Neptune. So there's some fishiness going on here. There's a lot of things going on where she's either not being completely honest with you or there's other people involved, just looking at your chart. I feel bad for Virgo suns right now, especially with those degrees, because you guys are kind of getting jerked around a little bit with Neptune and all these planets in opposition to your sun. Remember that the 7th house is relationships, but it's open enemies. With planets that are 7th houses away from your sun, but in the 12th, it's like shit people are doing behind your back. So I would really want to confirm and make sure, like, is that really your kid? Let's make lemonade. Where can we find something positive coming together that's setting up, giving you an opportunity to find somewhere to live, right? Well, the eclipse is trining your moon and it's trining Venus, which makes me feel like you're going to have somebody else who's going to be willing to give you, you know, a space to kind of chill for a little bit. I think with Saturn starting to creep up on the opposition to your moon, there can be a bit of you kind of bopping around a little bit, really until Saturn comes out of that opposition next year. So there's not a lot of stability there. Part of it is just the moon ruling the 4th house. It's just there's like a lot of back and forth. And a lot of the transits that are setting up in your chart are really talking about money, resources. The retrograde in your 2nd, you know, where is my money going? Like, where am I going to be working? So I'd be more focused on resources and getting you stable rather than feeling like you need to stay with her, make it work, you know, like force the relationship to like come together, like actually give it some breathing room. You're probably going to have to stay away from her for a little bit until Mars is out of the opposition with your sun. She may actually go MIA. She may drop out for a bit. When Mars is in opposition to your sun, there's a possibility that you don't hear from her for a little. I'll look at her chart though as well. The other thing that's positive, at least in all of this, is that you do have all these planets in Taurus in your 2nd house trining all of, like, you know, the cap stuff, and also coming into trines with Pluto. So that does insinuate like you're going to be able to make money, you're going to be able to survive, you're going to be able to eat, you're going to be able to take care of yourself. It's self-preservation 101, right? 2nd house. Relationship stuff to an extent, because Venus rules your 7th house, may not really fully get sorted out for a little while. I could see there could be some more bumps next year. I could see there could also be working out some relationship issues in the fall, because you're going to have a Mercury retrograde in September that's going to drop from Libra into Virgo. So you have to understand that, like, if that is your kid, if you guys are having issues, if you want to work it out, like right now you need some breathing room. And like with Mars and Jupiter and Neptune in your 12th house, you don't need to be blowing up with her, because it's going to square Neptune. And like, that's a real easy way to get in somebody's face and get worked up and wind up in jail. Trust me on this. When your chart ruler is conjunct Neptune in the 12th, you could look at somebody the wrong way and they could go, oh, they threatened me. And then they're going to call the cops. So like, be very careful while you're in the midst of this square. You want to keep your cool really clear until about the 3rd or the 4th week of May. Now, Jupiter and Mars are going into your sign, which is basically saying, yeah, it's going to be a shit show with all these planets going through your 12th house right before there's a new beginning. So Jupiter going into your sign is going to give you a new place to live. It's going to allow you to expand and roam and be okay being on your own. And also Mars crossing your ascendant is going to do that as well. So it's like you actually get your opportunity to kind of shift gears and start fresh the beginning of June. So right now it's like a month of still kind of going through some of this muck before you get to the other side. Okay, let's look at her stuff. Let me create a chart for her really quick. Oops. Live 2, and then it looks like her info was there we go, 9/6/95. So she's in a bunch of Pluto transits if she's in 95. 1:01 p.m. and that's Silver City, New Mexico. Okay, so we've got live readings, that's you, and then she's on the outside. So, oh, her Mars is conjunct your Pluto. Ooh, she's got Mars square Uranus and Neptune. Holy cardinal square. Okay, so her ascendant is Jupiter. She is having Jupiter going into her 5th house with Mars. I don't know if you mind me asking this, but, you know, okay, so she told you she's pregnant. Did she allude in any capacity one way or another if she was intending on, like, actually following through with the pregnancy? Just wondering. You know, of course you guys are attracted to each other. You've got all this, like, Sun, Venus, like, Virgo stuff going on. The problem that I'm having is that, you know, her Saturn is in your 12th house and her Saturn is in opposition to your Sun. Sun rules children. If she does have a kid, I'm not crazy about her Saturn opposition to your Sun because it makes me feel like there could be a sense of, you know, possibly making it difficult or challenging for you to be able to, like, have contact or have a relationship with the kid, right? Also, Saturn's on her moon right now, so there's that. So Saturn coming in conjunction with her moon can definitely be some very difficult things in regards to motherhood in general, right? She's got some complex stuff in your astrology, and I'm not wild about her North Node conjunct your Pluto or her Mars conjunct your Pluto. At first, that's great in terms of sex and romance until it takes a turn, and then it ends up manifesting as it being kind of ugly. And your Mars is on her Pluto as well. So it's like, you know, when things get rough between you guys, things can get very heated and very, very intense, right? If you look at also her ascendant, she's got Pluto conjunct her ascendant, and you have Mars conjunct her ascendant. So once again, that friction at first is good. There's chemistry, but then when it blows up, it becomes ugly. So the fact that you guys have 2 Pluto-Mars conjunctions makes me feel inclined to tell you, like, you need to be really, really careful mid-next month during the eclipse, because the eclipse point is going to be around, I think, 26, 27 degrees of Scorpio. So that's on her Pluto. It's on your Mars. It's in the 8th house. I mean, it's like, if you're going to be around her, there can't be any conflict. There can't be any violence. You need to calm down and you need to have a witness around you. Because an eclipse conjunct your Mars in the 8th house means somebody else is going to get aggressive with you and may attack you or may pull a knife on you, or they may do something and try to aggravate you. So you need to have someone around who can bear witness to whatever happens. So you're not in a situation where that eclipse trines her Saturn in your 12th house and hits all those planets in Pisces and somebody goes to jail. I'm just being honest. Like, be very careful. She is in the midst of, you know, Pluto coming into conjunction with her Neptune-Uranus, and she's got Neptune-Uranus square Mars. That's like somebody who's willing to throw a bomb into a situation and the whole thing blows up, right? So let me pull up her chart really quick so we can just, like, look at that specifically, and then we'll look at the composite chart. Okay, no, that's Aries rising. Sorry, let me make this Placidus. Mars and Pluto for two people. That's a really intense aspect. Okay, so she's 0 degrees Sag rising. She has Jupiter going into her 5th house with Mars. So that is like a pregnancy transit. She's born in 95. So that makes her, what, 27, I think? Yeah, right? Trying to do math. So if that's the case, let's see. 2021 minus 1995, no, 26. So she's 26. So she is in a 3rd house annual perfection year ruled by Uranus. And the eclipse is going to aspect Uranus. So you don't get the impression that she has any pre-existing health or, let's say, like recreational drug habits, do you? Because that eclipse is going to be conjunct Uranus in the 6th. So she could have some kind of health-related issue connected to this eclipse. Hyperventilating especially. She's really under pressure with Uranus in a square to her moon. And I can tell that she probably was either not planning or not anticipating getting pregnant and having a child. Also, Pluto is in a square with her south node in the 5th. So it's like, will she have the kid? Yes, if she decides. But to me, it seems like extremely stressful for her financially right now, and she doesn't know how to handle it. And with Pluto square her Mars in the 12th house, Mars is the ruler of children. Okay, Pluto is the ruler of the 12th house. Notice that Pluto is in a very complex T-square to her north node Mars and also her south node. This tells me that I'm not convinced fully that it's necessarily you. I can tell there's other people that are involved in her life, and I would want to make sure that that's actually your kid, because she can be doing this for financial reasons. With Pluto conjunct Uranus and Neptune square Mars is, you know, how do you know she's not being like, oh, I'm pregnant because, you know, I want somebody to, you know, give me some money and make me go away. That could happen. That's what happens when you see a Pluto square from the 2nd house to Mars. I'm not fully convinced, though, that from a financial perspective, she feels confident or capable enough of being able to have a kid, as much as I hate to say that. With Pluto at 28 going into 29 degrees, unfortunately, that also deals with relationships, right? So it's like, there's no guarantee, even if she has the kid with somebody, that she's actually going to be able to maintain the relationship. So that's the one thing that I would also question. Like, do you want to be with her, or is it because you want to support her? Really, that's only something you can answer. I can tell you that later in the year, when Mars is going retrograde in her natal 7th house, and it squares her natal Saturn and also Neptune right on top of that, she's going to fuck around. I'm just telling you right now, she's going to fuck around, because 7th house retrograde Mars coming into a square with her Saturn, ruler of the 2nd house, and also transit Neptune, she's going to go with whatever partner or whomever is going to give her the most security, right? So she's going to be like, well, who's going to give me somewhere to live, or who's going to help support me? And she may deceive a partner, right? Potentially, or not tell them the complete truth, because she doesn't want them to know like what she's doing. And I'm just being honest, you know, because it does involve Neptune on her Saturn. It is going to be Mars square. Like, if you go back and forth with this chick, trust me on this. Come back in the fall. You're going to see exactly what I was talking about. It's going to start in September, where she's going to go back and forth between two separate people, because she's trying to play them against each other to see which one's going to give her the most support. That Mars in 29 degrees in Libra tells me that a pregnancy is what starts a war when it comes to a relationship, which ultimately leads to a separation, unfortunately, because Mars rules her 5th. Timing-wise, it's not ideal. What can you say? You know, now Chiron's in the 5th house. A lot of like late Scorpio rising, early Sag risings are finding out they're pregnant, and then they flip out, right? Because they're like, oh, you know, like all the Chiron stuff, it's bringing up all their unresolved issues from their childhood. Also, I should say that if we throw your chart into the mix, her Saturn is in opposition to your sun. It's like you may feel like she is possibly constantly coming down on you about not being responsible enough, or like not having a steady job, or like whatever. Like, even though she's a Sag rising, she acts like a Capricorn with all those planets in her 10th house, and she has Saturn in opposition to Venus. So she's going to deny, you know, like a really healthy relationship, so to say. And she's in her Lilith return. Obviously, you know, if that ends up being like the mother of your child, like you want to be there, you want to try to support her and have a relationship with your kid any which way you can. But I would definitely wholeheartedly say, like, you need to get a, like, I would be like, okay, cool. Like, if you're pregnant and if that's my kid, then I want a paternity test. Just to make sure, because I can tell she's fucking around with other people. Lovers is always Mars, right? So it's like, for her to have Pluto going through her 2nd house right now, squaring Mars, tells me that she's likely to fuck around with whoever's going to give her security. You know what I'm saying? Let's look at the composite chart. That's really going to tell us what's going on here. So the composite chart's a midpoint composite. So it gives you guys an Aquarius rising, 4 degrees. Sun in Virgo in the 8th. Moon in Scorpio at 23 in the 10th. Conjunct Jupiter, though. So, you know, a couple things. One is Venus, Neptune, Jupiter all in opposition to your sun right now. That's your relationship house. It's like taking a step back. Sun, Venus in the 8th house does make me feel like other people could get involved. Like, I don't know if you met her when she was still married and going through a separation. I don't know if it's a situation where there has been issues with like her kind of screwing around with other people, and like you're kind of putting it together and you're just now starting to figure it out. But Uranus is what rules this chart, and you've got Uranus at 29 degrees of Sag. So, you know, at the very least, I would say this could be a very karmic relationship. It may be very difficult for you guys to be friends. I also think that with Neptune and Jupiter coming into a square with Uranus, something that you'll find that will happen even if you do try to be in a relationship is that there can be this sense of her being like, oh no, that's my friend. You know, we're just friends. Or like dudes that might be on social media or whatever, somebody she's hearing from, right? Because the 11th house deals with lovers of other people, and you've got Jupiter and Neptune squaring that. So to me, that's kind of saying like there's a sense of not being completely, you know, upfront. Yeah, when she was married and she's still getting divorced. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not judging her. I'm just telling you that she's going through some very complex squares, which makes me feel inclined to tell you, like, you don't really know if you can trust her, unfortunately. The other thing I would say is that, you know, your guys' planets are getting hit in a very big way, because notice in this chart, you got Pluto, Mars, Jupiter, Moon, all in Scorpio, and the South Node's going through there. So right now the South Node hit your guys' composite moon. That's why it's like, we're not living together. You're out of here. The moon also rules the 6th house, which is a separation. The next conjunction it's going to make is going to be to Mars. And it's actually going to receive an eclipse. The eclipse is in opposition to your guys' Mars. So that's definitely like moving or taking space or not being in the same space. And this is definitely going to be something that I feel like even if you try to work it out, it's going to be very difficult. And within a couple years' time, Pluto, ruler of the 10th house, is going to sit on your guys' composite ascendant. That doesn't mean it can't work. It just means that there's going to be a huge, profound shift in regards to the home and like where you guys are living in general. So, I mean, if you have the opportunity to stay somewhere else or get some space and not be around her until these eclipses pan out in about 2 weeks' time, I think it's going to do you well, and it's going to give you guys time to kind of air this out. This isn't the worst composite chart that I've seen, but it's certainly not the best. And I think with the chart ruler being at 29, and also Venus and the sun being in the 8th house, it's hard for the sun to shine in the 8th house. Like, it's going to be outshined by secrets and not being honest. And then it's got, you know, Venus that's in Virgo conjunct the sun. It's essentially saying it's being blown out by other people. Venus is the ruler of the 4th, especially people from the past or people that are like secretive. Let me look at her chart again. And Venus coming into conjunction with her Saturn I think is about her kind of shutting somebody out of the house. And then the next eclipse, which is going to be on the 15th, that eclipse is going to be in opposition to her Pluto, ruler of the 12th house, square Saturn. Just be mindful that there could potentially be issues that involve neighbors, because that eclipse is going to square Saturn in her 3rd house, or siblings. So y'all are fighting, you're trying to get your stuff out. She might have a neighbor around who's going to go, I saw the whole thing, or like a sibling or a friend that comes over. Like, if you're going to get your stuff, don't be doing it around mid-May. Get it before, get out, have a plan to basically reconnect with her and try to talk to her at a later time when I think these energies have calmed down. Mercury is also going to go retrograde in her 7th, which means like there's going to be communication breakdown going on with a partner of like, you know, somebody reaching back out to her who she separated with, or somebody from the past going back. So you could wait, right? You could wait, but when Mercury retrogrades, it's going to oppose her Pluto. So it means like she's still really intense in going through it and isn't totally ready to communicate. So let's look at a transit that's going to be better. Maybe like when Mercury comes back up and it's like trining her moon, maybe that might be better. Yeah, you're looking at like mid-June. I mean, I know that's not what you want to hear, but it's like you could potentially have a better run at this if you just give it some time. But definitely find out if that's your kid. I hate to say that, but I think with Mars and Chiron coming into a square with Pluto, as much as I hate to say this as well, there's a lot of tension in this chart about whether or not she either maintains the pregnancy or she has the kid. And I say this because Mars is going to go to 27, 28 in Aries at the end of June. It's going to square Pluto and it's going to oppose her Mars. And that will literally be some kind of turning point in the pregnancy, the 28th of June through like the beginning of July, you know? So with Uranus still in a square to her moon, with Saturn that's still relatively close to her moon, it looks like even if she does have the pregnancy, like she's going to be really stressed out. And I think that if she feels like she's going to try to go with somebody and say to somebody, oh, this is your kid, you're going to take care of me, and it doesn't pan out, she could change her mind. I don't like saying that, but Mars, when it's in the 5th house on the South Node square to Pluto, is like her looking around going like, how am I going to take care of this? How am I going to fund this, right? How am I going to take care of this kid? So definitely best taking space until at least the 2nd half of May. If you can push this out till June, it's even better. But, you know, I would just say for the sake of knowing for you, right? You want to know if that's your kid. And in your chart, so 1982, so you're 40 this year. So you are 39 right now, which means you are, what, you know, perfection is that? You're in a 4th house year, so it does deal with home and family situations. So when transits to your moon happen, like oppositions, conjunctions, squares, or when planets go through your 4th house, or when there is a lunar eclipse, okay, that lunar eclipse mid-May, things happen. So that mid-May eclipse is very prominent. You'll be affected by the lunar eclipse. This, and also, I guess, next year you go into a solar eclipse year. So if she is pregnant, then the kid would be born next year according to your astrology. But you want to pay attention for when planets start trining your moon or when planets get into your 4th house. So actually, this makes me feel like the good news is that there is a sense of stabilizing your home base. It's just going to take until about after the new moon at the end of June going into July. So you just need to buy some time. It's May. So June, July, you know, right about the end of June is when things will kind of come together. So about 2 months. Really use the new moon to manifest at the end of June, because it's like setting the stage for like what will be your own home in like a safe space. And I'm liking that it's going to square Jupiter, which means you may need to travel to go somewhere for your living situation. Like you might have to go a little bit further, but you're going to have like a safer space to land, right? This is a chart that's going to change a lot after these eclipses. And just know that both because of the Mercury retrograde in Libra in the fall, September, October, and also the Mars-Neptune square. Likely this is going to be a situation where she's still not being completely honest about what her intentions are and where she's intending to go. So ask questions, come back, let us know what happens, sending you good vibes. But I'm not totally convinced with some of these transits that you have all of the makings right now to possibly be a daddy. But let us know. Come back, leave me a comment. Sorry to hear you're going through that. That is a lot. We have not called final call, but we will pretty soon. So if you guys want to make a donation for reading, let me know. I see we got a handful of people. So we've got Crystal, Raja, Amber, Kayla, Heather. So we got a handful of people. So that's probably going to be everybody. I'll take Crystal. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Let's see. Let's go ahead and put this in. So July 6, 1991. And that's at 4:33 p.m. And that was in Kingston, New York. All right, so I've got you here, your question. I had an unexpected phone call on Thursday morning with a potential new job opportunity. I was not looking, but the opportunity sounds like a great step in my career. I was excited to hear about this. The career would likely result in me moving. I'm wondering if there's anything in my chart that shows that. The phone call was at 10:16 a.m. If this is helpful information, thank you. So today's Saturday, so Friday, Thursday, so the 21st. And that was at 10:16 a.m. Are you still on East Coast time? I just want to make sure. So that would be like 7:16 a.m. my time. Okay, cool. So interesting, the vertex crossed your ascendant, and the IC was conjunct your point of fortune. So it looks like the phone call was more relating specifically to giving you an opportunity for a new work and living situation. So it comes together. It's not just because they were like, oh, hey, by the way, you know, you may have to relocate. The ascendant was in Cancer. The sun was on your ascendant. So that was about like highlighting, like it looks like somebody might have seen something you posted. Maybe they've seen a LinkedIn or they see just your experience, and like it prompted them to like want to reach out to you and be like, hey, because your vertex got triggered a couple different ways. The ascendant vertex on the ascendant, it was about something kind of coming together. Mars also coming into conjunction with the most southern part of your chart. And it is making a trine to your vertex and also your sun. So career, movement, all of this stuff. So, I mean, yes, it was kind of inevitable that this was going to happen, to be honest with you. If we look at this, whether you look at this from Placidus or whole sign, you know, Saturn is coming into your third house. Saturn can deal with responsibilities and roles, and it's making an opposition to your natal Mars and Venus. Mars is your chart ruler, and Venus rules your 7th house of partnerships. So you will see this several times this year. Also, part of it's the eclipse. The eclipse is literally on your ascendant, squaring your Mars, Venus, and it's squaring your 4th house Saturn transit whole sign. 3rd house is moving, 4th house is where you live. So it's trying to get you to move so you can settle somewhere else, if that makes sense. Lots of Scorpio risings with Leo placements are experiencing this. I wonder timing, because to me it looks like if you were to take something like this, you would literally look like you would be moving in the summer, like the end of summer. So you would have to be situated so you could actually start a position sometime in the early fall. So I think there's something to it. I think the, you know, what's most interesting to me is that Jupiter and Mars are coming into a trine with your Mercury. And that talks a lot about being able to work with younger people. So I don't know if it's for you to be teaching or educating, but I could see that. I could see it being something that's also much more authentic and creative and a new opportunity for you in that sense. So Jupiter rules your house of money. It's also education. Mars and Jupiter, your chart ruler, your second house of money, are all going to come into a trine with Mercury. It's opening up your career, but you have to move. So yes, I think it's divine timing. The question is what's the time crunch? Because to me, it's all getting banged up with your transits in your 6th house, which means you'd have to plan to move. You'd have to schedule that. You'd have to find the time. You'd have to give notice in a current position, possibly. A lot of things like that are going to happen. I feel inclined to tell you moving or considering moving while Jupiter is in your whole sign 4th is going to be so much easier than when Saturn's in your 4th. Just take it from me. Moving when Jupiter is there is going to be more optimistic. It's going to be more positive. It's also trining your ascendant. So you're like, oh, this could be a new beginning. This is amazing. But Saturn, once it fully gets into Pisces next year, it's going to feel like a drag trying to move. And it's going to be much more difficult, I think, for you to move. Once it starts coming into, you know, oppositions with your midheaven. It's like you want to do it. If you are going to do it this year, get there and get situated. Or you can wait a little bit longer, but it's definitely, I think, going to be a little bit more challenging for you to move down the road. To me, it looks like the move is also about overcoming fear. So it seems like with Saturn coming into a square with Pluto is like, I want to know that it's solid. I want to know that you're going to give me the position. I want to know that if I have a fresh start, it's going to be okay. The position is in public, so I have to wait for that, and then I would have to give 4-week notice on my current job. Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, it's a secret. Pluto in the 12th, Saturn coming into a square. It's like, hey, we're going to give this to you, but don't tell anyone. I say do it. Also because you're still in your Saturn's return, and Saturn's in your 3rd house, Placidus, which means if you are willing to do this, and it's all about how you communicate, just make sure if you accept the job, make sure you have a job offer, make sure everything's written out, everything's plain, in writing, guaranteed. Because when you're dealing with squares with Aquarius, Scorpio, and Taurus, it's financial. So there is a need for you to like have a definitive proposal on paper that you can rely on, that is an agreement that is signed. Yeah, don't be afraid of moving. Okay, you're going to move one way or another. What I like about transits like this, where Jupiter pulls ahead of Saturn, is it's saying, look, this is where your future is going. So we can do it now positively, or you can hang around where you're at for another year and then face some situations where you may not get as good of an offer, but you're going to want to move. So do it. Do it during your Saturn return, especially, right? Overriding fear of the unknown is part of Saturn square your Pluto. I would tell you that when you get to the other side of it, because you're already coming out of it. Saturn will retrograde. But when you come out of the other side of it, you're going to realize like, oh, it was worth making the leap of faith. What you don't know yet is it's not just about getting you to a new place. It's not just about getting a new job. It's going to be about you having some changes in your romantic relationships. And whether that's pushing an existing relationship to go to the next level together, or if it's about moving somewhere new and starting over, your relationships are going to get better. It will get solid. Wait for these eclipses to shake out. Just know it's going to be stressful giving notice and letting them know straight up, because your whole life is going to have to change and you're going to be in somewhere new by about July, going into August. Come back, let us know. But I think it's a good move for you. I really like the fact that like Mars and Jupiter are about to trine your Mercury. That's like, fuck yeah, let's go and do this. It's going to be an adventure, you know? Hopefully that's helpful. We got last call in the queue. We got a couple people. So if you guys want to get in, let me know. Okay. Forest Fairy. Let's see what you have to say. December 25th, 75. Christmas baby. Uh, 5:05 a.m. And that is Ingersoll, Ontario, Canada. Here we go. Okay, so why am I so hesitant, afraid of launching my own channel? Thank you. Kind regards, Forest Fairy. You're welcome, Crystal. Good luck. Take that job. Well, here we go. We got another Scorpio rising. Why am I so afraid of launching my own channel? I'm interested to see if anybody else can see this before I answer it. So you're Scorpio rising. Pluto is your chart ruler, as is Mars. You've got Pluto hanging out in your third house, which deals with media, channels, communication, sharing your mind, your ideas, trying to turn it into a business. Okay? You also equally have Uranus coming into your seventh house, which is radically showing your true authentic self to the world and putting yourself on the world stage and showing yourself to other people, showing your voice, what you have to say. Oh, there she is. I've stayed off the internet for 20 years and just discovered YouTube during lockdown. I raised my kids tech-free until lockdowns in 2020 when education went online. Very interesting. I admire that very much. I mean, here's the deal, okay? It's interesting to me because Aquarius, you know, Saturn and Aquarius coming into your fourth house tells me that you're having to adapt. It's been adapting to technology, learning about YouTube, learning about the internet, learning about electronics, routers, all these things that maybe you may not have been familiar with. I also feel like Saturn has been in a square to the nodes, which is saying that there is a need for you to upgrade. Even if you're, you know, somebody who is tech savvy, like my husband's a Scorpio rising, he had to get new everything. His computer broke down. He had to get, you know, a new computer. We got a new screen. We got all kinds of new cables, like Saturn, you know, and Pluto doing their thing. So it doesn't really have anything to do with you not being as experienced. I think it has more to do with just, you know, Saturn going into a square with your nodes, and it's a sign of the times and a way for you to really share valuable information with the world and leveling up and learning more about some of this stuff. Hesitation, I think, is more Pluto. And one thing I'll tell you is that while Pluto is scary, I think it's making some really nice aspects, and it's coming into a trine with your moon. And it makes me feel like it would be really good for you because I can tell that it would present you with the opportunity to be sharing your insight with other people. I say insight because it's not just your thoughts. It's like literally things that you've learned or stuff that you've perfected. You have a 29-degree Virgo moon. Pluto's trining that. I mean, that's opening the door for your ninth house. What if I told you that you know things people want to know about, and you could bring in a new stream of income or residual income by basically creating a channel that people can subscribe to or people can become a member of, and you can bring money in through teaching things that you already know, right? Looks to me like you'd be teaching stuff that's related to Cancer or Virgo things. So it's like taking care of children, homesteading, growing things, sewing things, intuitive insights. You're super psychic if your moon's at 29 degrees. So I look at this and I go, it's a great learning opportunity. Creating your own channel, great. That's definitely the third house, but it's also education. So I would say like double down, look into Patreon, consider getting a Patreon where you can create content. People can subscribe, they can donate to your channel, and they can pay you for things that you're teaching. I say do it. I say do it especially because you're going to have to do it one way or another. Pluto's coming into an opposition with your Saturn. Saturn's the ruler of the third house. So you can either do it the easy way or the hard way. I would say to you that by the time Pluto comes into an opposition with your Saturn, because it's the ruler of the third, there is a possibility that you're searching for different platforms. So diversify, don't limit it to just one platform. That's why I'm saying maybe consider something like Patreon or something that's going to host videos. In the off chance that you're not able to use one platform, you can use another. Because Pluto will definitely challenge your ability to do it independently, or it could be more difficult. So I would do it before then. Also, something else I would say is that because the sun rules your midheaven, you've got Jupiter coming into a square with your sun. That's your career. So Jupiter, once again, is going to deal with teaching, education, what you're sharing with people. I think you have lots of insight and things that you could share with the world, but more specifically, younger people, or stuff relating to what you've learned about teaching your children or working with children. You know? Launching is going to be, that's like really specific. I would say you want to do it when you're having a positive aspect to your sun. So you're about to have an eclipse in your sixth house, which means you're going to be putting a lot of time and energy and effort into a new project. I would rather you wait until after these eclipse periods before you launch something. We could do something like maybe when you have a trine to your sun.
So I would say like maybe get like Mars into Taurus and then you trine something, because you're going to have to build this out first. There's like a sense of you needing to learn things and then building things out. So it really depends on what kind of a channel it is also. That's something else I would say. Well, a couple things. I'm flexible. I think that when Mars comes into conjunction with Jupiter, I kind of feel inclined to tell you, like, just do it. Just start it, right? Just get it going. And you're going to feel like doing that sometime around the end of May. But let's do it when there's going to be like maybe the moon in Leo, so it trines. So look into June 4th. Mars and Jupiter squares your sun, pushes you out into the open. The moon is going to trine that. You're also going to see that the sun is in a trine to Saturn. Mercury's in a trine to Saturn. So it's like you're still probably not going to feel like you're ready, but I would say get stuff started, start setting it up. And Sun conjunct Mars. Another time could be June 9th. So the end of May going into early June. But if you want a specific election date, let me know. It's something that I can do. It's a service that I offer. I can literally tell you what day, what time. You just kind of tell me what you want specifically and I'll tell you when to do it. So you can check out my website. That's something I offer. Getting married, elective services, you know, planning pregnancies, launching businesses, launching books. Like, that's why astrology is so amazing. Like, you can literally sit down and pick a date and a time and like set it all up and then launch it and know that it's going to be successful. So that's where astrology really becomes incredibly helpful. Let us know. Hopefully you launch this. I think it's a really good idea. It's just there's a couple of dates that you want to watch for, like when Mercury's in a square to Saturn, because you may kind of get bummed out that you don't immediately get some kind of, you know, positive traction. But just being a Scorpio rising with Jupiter and Mars going into your 5th house, I feel like just do it. You know, you're going to figure it out as you go. But I personally think that it's going to take a little bit of time, and that Jupiter Mars transit, you want to make the most of it, because it's literally going to help you start something new. Go for something that you're going to bring in patrons though that are going to pay to subscribe. Very exciting. Congrats. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of work coming up with content and doing it. It's a full-time job. Hopefully that's helpful for you. So let me know. All right. So I'm going to move on to Amber. We've got another double. So we've got Amber here, 225.82. And that was at 12:50 p.m. And that was in, okay, California. Okay, so February 25th, 1982, 12:50 p.m. Okay, Amber. And then the second one is going to be Sarah, 3/20/1980. (5:25 a.m.) And that was Charlottesville. Okay, so I'm just reading even the first line of your question. And the question is, should I pursue a romantic relationship? You have history. I'm going to tell you whether or not it's compatible. I'm not going to tell you whether or not you should, because that's an opinion and everybody has one. So I'm going to assume you're Amber. Let me know if you're not. Pluto's conjunct your Venus, girl. Be careful. Did this person come back around at the end of the year when Venus went retrograde over your Venus with Pluto? Was there anything that happened like that, you know, January, February, March? Be careful, because Pluto conjunct your Venus can be dealing with somebody where there's other people involved, because your Venus is at a 27. So are you just coming out of a relationship? Is she just coming out of a relationship? Make sure that there's no toxicity going on, okay? The right half of the chart's other people. So I'm not saying this to you specifically. I'm just telling you, like, you were born with Venus square Pluto, but with Pluto conjunct your Venus and it's still retrograding. I wonder, like, is there an open relationship aspect? Has both parties dealt with the past and what happened in the past? Do you feel good about that, right? So it looks like you have the Pisces sun, Cancer rising, Venus in Capricorn. Let me throw her chart on top of this. She texted you on your birthday. Okay. So 225. Okay, so actually, wait, this is, yeah, this is you. 225. Okay, because I'm like, wait, what? And then this is her on top of yours. Mercury on your sun. You guys have been talking a lot the last 2 days, huh? Her sun's conjunct your moon. That's why you guys are a good match. So there's some similarity there. And her Jupiter is in opposition to your sun. Do you get the impression that it's like always been like this thing where it's like right person, wrong time? Like you guys never quite come together at the right time? Like it's just the timing is off? Her Venus is in Taurus, Uranus is on her Venus, so it's about a friendship potentially turning into a romantic relationship. Just know that the eclipse is on her Venus, so it's setting the stage for a brand new relationship moving forward for the next 6 months. Being that Uranus is going to hover around her Venus, it's like you need to kind of take things slow because she still feels like she needs a lot of freedom. I can see you guys have been talking a lot. One thing I will say is, like, I like a good sun-moon conjunction. I feel like that's really completing each other. I think her Mercury on your sun, she's going to get you. You guys are going to communicate well. I like that she's got a Taurus moon, and it's conjunct your Chiron, which means, like, she can be nurturing and understanding. You guys have history, but the thing is like, girl, you have a lot of relationship karma. Like, a lot. Saturn and Mars and Pluto in Libra in the 4th, all in a square to South Node, Venus in your 7th. I mean, it was just like, I hate to be like this, but like not a lot of relationships were going to stick until about this year. Because Pluto crossing over your South Node and your Venus, because it's squaring your 4th house, it's dealing with the past. So there's a lot of uprooting family karma, and there's like a lot of uprooting issues also relating to just relationships from the past. Like that's just a reoccurring theme in your life in general. Her Venus trine your South Node and her Moon trine your South Node. I mean, worst case scenario, friendship. You guys kind of have different love languages though. You know, your Mercury in Aquarius square her Venus makes me feel like you guys need to learn to communicate needs appropriately. Her Venus in opposition to your Jupiter is very sweet. There's a lot of good aspects here. It's enough for me to be like, you know, I think this is possible. I like her Juno on your North Node too, because it makes me feel like she's a representation of like the partner that you need. That would be really good for you. Yeah, I think that, you know, like could have been like right person, wrong time. I'm still concerned a little bit with Pluto in conjunction to your Venus, because I got to tell you something, like the last 3 years of your love life looks very rough. With Venus being, you know, transited by Pluto, by Saturn, right? By a Venus retrograde. It's just like you have been really, really cleaning out the past. Because Pluto is conjunct your Venus, ruler of your whole sign 4th house, she's still coming back. So you're still working on it. So like there's no guarantee, so to say, between the two of you. And this is your composite chart, Taurus rising, Sun in Pisces, Venus in Pisces. So Jupiter is aligning with your guys' composite Venus. And it's like at the worst case scenario, you guys can be friends. I think you guys need to spend time together and learn how to be friends again, because you guys are both very different people than you were when you dated. I would also say that Venus conjunct the Sun is a wonderful aspect for a relationship, but I also noticed that it's in opposition to Mars. So there's a little friction. Venus opposed Mars, basically like star-crossed lovers. You know, you guys can't smother each other. You need time apart. Maybe you appreciate each other since you've had time apart more. You guys do need to have social lives and you need to go out and you need to do things, because that Venus opposed Mars can basically say you kind of razz each other a little bit. That's how you guys show affection. You guys kind of pull each other's pigtails. But the Venus in opposition to Mars square Neptune, because Neptune is the ruler of the 11th house, is there needs to be a definitive conversation about, are we friends or is this something more? Try being friends first, feel that out, make sure it's a good fit. You guys do have an eclipse coming that is going to square your composite Mercury, which means you guys have to talk about what you're both equally looking for and what you guys are ready for, and whether or not you guys are ready for the same thing, or if you need a little bit more time. I like also Saturn, exalted Saturn and Jupiter in the 6th with a trine to the midheaven. Like, I like that. And Pluto coming into conjunction with the midheaven over the next 2 or 3 years can be a very strong period of time where now you guys are more so ready for a relationship. But know that Venus squares Neptune and opposes Mars. So you guys need to be on the same page about, are there other people involved? What's going on? What's the deal? Makes sense because you have Venus in a Gemini degree. So even though it's in Capricorn, it's at 27 with Pluto there. You don't need any surprises that you fall head over heels back in love with her and then you find out, oh, well, now you're talking to other people. So you guys got to hash that out, you know? But I think that there's a lot of potential. I would just say be very careful with Venus square Neptune. It needs to be defined. Don't get into a situationship, you know, because that can happen. And the eclipse that's coming is conjunct your guys' natal Uranus. So it's helping you guys determine the future of where you're going. So I think you need to have a conversation about what has happened the last couple of years in your personal lives, where you've grown, what you've learned, what you've experienced. Really redefine who you are now that you're reconnecting, and you guys need to talk about the path moving forward. But I can also see that if this relationship is going to work, there is going to be things that you're going to have to deal with later this summer regarding home and living situation. I noticed that you say you live 3 hours apart, but when all these planets go into Leo, it's going to oppose your 10th house and it's going to square the 7th. So literally there can be a lot of back and forth or having to stay at somebody's house for periods of time, eventually getting to the point where it's like, where are we going? What are we doing? You know, are we going to be able to facilitate this relationship living somewhere else? Somebody's going to have to move. And I would assume from about August to the fall, these are the conversations that you guys would be having. It's not terrible though. I think it was probably like a really good match, just wrong time. But you need to be really careful with Pluto on your Venus, because you can be talking to people and getting involved with people who are getting involved with other people. So make sure you hash that out. Come back, let us know. Let us know what happens. I see Kayla got in here. Kayla, it's nice to see you again. Let me know, remind me your info so I can plug that in. And then we've got Heather on deck too. Lots of composite readings tonight. I am always happy to give you guys the details on that. Let's see. Hey, Bridget. We're doing donation-based readings, so it's $40 for a question. You can scan the QR code. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up here pretty soon. I saw that Miss Thompson got on there, and Ellie Smith. Ellie, I don't have any information for you. Kayla, I don't have any information for you. So Kayla and Ellie, can you guys send that to me? I need your birth date, time, year, all that stuff. I'm going to move on to Heather, Kayla. So once I have that information, I will get it. And Ellie, if you want to send that, you will be on my list as well. So let's take a look at these readings now for Heather. What's your question, Kayla? Let me know. I remember your setup. 5th house, Aquarius, Sun, Libra rising, Virgo moon. Is your moon in the 12th house? I see you, Maria. I got you, don't worry. All right, so I got Kayla's info. So Kayla, Heather, Maria, and then Ellie. Ellie, send me your info if you've got it. Okay, Kayla, let's plug you in. Thank you, Ellie. I'll be with you shortly. 21587. What's your question for me? Kayla, what's going on? 1987. And that was 931. I feel this energy has been so transformative. I've released a lot of what I needed to feel something powerful coming in. Me distancing myself from my dad's trauma is liberating. Yes, it is. Saturn hasn't even hit your sun yet. That's the crazy thing, is that Saturn got close, but it's going to retrograde before fully conjuncting. The liberation also are all the transits that are going into your natal 6th house, which is rest, recuperation, healing. You are in the midst of your Jupiter return. Just a heads up, actually. That Jupiter return is going to be exact sometime between today and tomorrow. So your Jupiter return's happening and you're like, oh, I'm spiritually renewed. I feel better grounded. I feel happier, healthier, like clear, detoxed of all of the drama. There is a need to still do like cleansing though. So I would say like, you know, salt baths, soaks, massages, drinking a lot of water, really getting all of that out of your system. But you can feel super blissed out because it's your Jupiter return. And then when Venus comes into conjunction, girl, there's a lot of really pampering yourself that's going to be happening the 26th, 27th, 28th. If you're feeling overwhelmed or tired or emotional or run down, stay hydrated, get a massage. But that's a really interesting day, the 26th, because Venus is your chart ruler. It's going to meet with the moon, the 10th house, and Neptune. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, one of the best things I did was that, because I can be better to myself. I can be a better mom. I can be a better partner, which feels really good. It is squaring some of your Sag placements though. So it's also about how you're communicating and realizing that the way that you communicate and the way that you're thinking and talking about yourself has changed. I've released old stories and I kind of want to dance and love myself. It's really, really, really great. This is really good. People don't always feel this way when Saturn's conjunct the sun. But I think it's all of the Jupiter transits that you're having, and also Venus, Jupiter, Moon in opposition. It's interesting to me because it makes me feel like you're going to be more productive and you're going to get more done because you're feeling better. You know, all those planets in Pisces in the 6th house to me feels... Usually it's busy, but this is like busy with like releasing, busy with meditating, being more tapped in spiritually, you know, all in opposition to your moon too. I would say be mindful that there is like a little bit of like losing track of time, or almost like you're feeling like time is going by very quickly. And when all those planets square Uranus, it's also about realizing how much time and energy you spent on worrying about family drama or issues that you might have had with your dad, or scheduling problems, or anxiety that you had about not talking about things. Like that's all going to kind of fall by the wayside. And moon opposed moon with Venus, Neptune, and Jupiter, I think is going to have you being a little bit more tired and lethargic than usual, right? But like 6th house is like cleaning and duties, but in Pisces, it's like, oh, I'm remembering to meditate. I'm remembering to get good sleep. I'm remembering to, you know, have my daily prayer and affirmations. Like it's actually really great for you. It's helping you get out of the cycle and the habit of spiraling and like dreading things or worrying about things. And it's helping you practice better kind of spiritual maintenance. Yeah. Taking care of yourself more, definitely, with all those planets in your natal 6th house. Let me know what happens like right around the 26th through the 28th. I'd be curious just to hear like what plays out, because to me that seems like a really good time for like a spa day. The 26th is going to be right around midweek though, so it is going to be kind of funky, the 26th through the 28th. But if you do feel like you need to have a play hooky one of those days, not go to work, take some time off, that would be really great with some of these squares, because it's all going to square your natal Uranus and oppose your moon. Be mindful that that can also be a period where if you have a pet or an animal, there's like an issue with them. They might eat something they shouldn't have eaten, or you can have something going on with one of your kids where they have an accident or they're feeling a little under the weather, and it kind of throws your schedule for a loop, you know. But the fact that you're doing better is good. You're going to be quite busy though, especially when Mars comes into your 6th house. If you are under the weather, if you do have a lot of stuff that needs to get done, you have a lot of support, especially in May. The lesson is for you to ask for it. Ask for help. So if it's boyfriend, if it's a counselor, if it's a therapist, if it's a business partner, if it's baby daddy, whatever, ask for help, because this is you learning that if you need assistance getting something done, let them help you. It's going to actually make your schedule easier. This can also be a wonderful time to like join a gym, get a trainer, you know, start working with a new teacher, something like that can also be kind of happening for you. But it is under the guise of like either health or mental health or something like that going on. Perfect. Yeah. So if you took some time off, go be by water, go to a spa and soak for a couple hours, get a massage, get a pedicure, something like that, because that's like, it's going to work all the emotions out of your system, if that makes sense. It's actually going to help you clear and like declutter a lot of that stuff. I think it would be really positive for you to do that. It looks good. I'm glad to hear that you're taking some time and like you're going to have time to kind of relax and unwind because you're getting ready to start a new cycle with Mars and Jupiter going into Aries. It's really good for relationships, and it's also going to present more opportunities for time off and travel. So I'm glad to hear that. We'll see what happens when, you know, Saturn does fully conjunct your sun. That's not going to happen, obviously, until the new year. It's going to get really close here in June, so be mindful of that you can feel more responsibility, especially for your children or for dating or having to work hard to have fun. Not a bad thing to have in your 5th house. More responsibility, more time with your kids. And be mindful that the mid-May eclipse is going to square your sun. So it's going to say like, go out, have fun, like take some time off. So you're going to keep feeling that pressure to like actually take a step back so you have more time to enjoy yourself. Hopefully that is what happens. Let me know. All right, so let me bop back over to Heather. And Heather 1979. 1979, and that was at 6:15 a.m. And that was in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. And then they are 8779. And that was at 9 a.m. August 7th, 79, 9 a.m. Okay, so let's take a look. So we've got you and then him. You are so welcome. Keep me updated. Question is, what's the best way to end this relationship so he'll hear me and when? He doesn't take no for an answer. Oh boy. You're the inside, he's the outside. You know, it's kind of funny, girl. You got that Sun Mars, and your Mars is exalted in Capricorn, so you shouldn't have a problem telling people to step off. Here's the deal, okay? He's got Mars in your 7th house, which means he presents a challenge. And his Mars is in opposition to your Mercury, so it's like you communicate, and he goes, no, and he doesn't leave you alone. He really likes you, obviously, because his Venus is conjunct your Jupiter. There's a strong attraction, so on and so forth. But somebody with this much Leo can be kind of draining because they require a lot of attention. I love the relationship dynamic between Leo and Capricorn, especially when you see somebody where both of them have a lot of planets in those signs. You know, they rub each other the wrong way. It creates a quincunx. Capricorn, the more they act like a Capricorn and kind of try to be the boss or shut things down or delegate tasks, whatever, or show a sense of maturity, Leo has an opposite reaction. It's going to get dramatic. It's going to throw a fit. It's going to glob onto you. It's going to want attention. Like, God bless Leo, but like that's what happens when you have somebody who has a lot of planets that quincunx your planets, right? Okay. Part of what's going on here is Leos are learning with all of the Saturn transits in Aquarius this year and the eclipses and the squares that if a partner's not meant for them, they're not meant for them. They're not going to stay. So when you say to me, like, how do I really end it and like actually end it? Endings of relationships have to do with your 6th house. So that's Mercury. Okay. So, this guy's going to learn the hard way over the next couple of years that, you know, when a partner says something, they mean it. And he can learn it the easy way this year by when somebody says, hey, enough is enough, I'm done. He takes a step back, or he can keep pushing it until it's going to come harder and harder. The thing that I'm seeing here is like you really do, being a Sag rising and also having Venus in Sag and having Venus in opposition to your moon, you do a lot better in a relationship when somebody gives you space. Like you will stay in the relationship as long as they give you your freedom. You're very independent with the Sun and Mars in your first house. I mean, I know this is just confirming a lot of things, but it's like you've got somebody who needs a lot of attention, and he was born with a full moon. So, you know, his moon is in Aquarius, his Mercury, Venus, Sun, Jupiter are all in Leo. There is a sense of there always being this polarity, and everything about this guy is kind of intense and dramatic because it's bringing up the theme of romance and also togetherness and what he needs versus what other people needs. To me, it's like he doesn't really respect somebody's space, right? And he rubs you the wrong way because his Mars is on your 7th house. So likely, even if you do try to cut him loose, which I feel like the eclipse is the perfect time to do it. You've got an eclipse that is literally going to be happening in Taurus. So technically, that is on the cusp of your 5th house of dating. It's going to square his Pluto and his Sun and his Jupiter. And you can cut him loose. But this guy's going to come back. Like, he'll keep coming back. He's going to come back later this fall. He's going to try to come back next summer during the Mars and the Venus retrograde. Like, he's not going to leave you alone. So this is the kind of person that once you do cut them out, he's got to go. You can't really leave that door open. When you're dealing with a relationship with somebody who's got a lot of planets in your 8th house, there is a real strong fixation, even a borderline obsession. So I'm wondering, is it that you're not crazy about him because he's just too intense and like he's not respecting your space? Or like, what's the deal? Just wondering. I like his Venus on your Jupiter, and I also like his Venus on your vertex. I feel like that may be what keeps bringing him back to you. You know? One way or another, you do have new relationship stuff setting up for you. I think like the eclipses in your 5th can very much bring somebody in. Likely, if you and him have been going back and forth since like last year, you know, there was an eclipse in your 5th house that really could have or should have also eclipsed this out and kicked him to the curb last November. But there's no real easy way around this. Like, this is going to be somebody, because they have such heavy 7th and 8th house placements, they're not going to want to go away. And as soon as he's not getting attention, he throws a fit, and then he fights for more attention, or he fights to try to get you to fight for the relationship. That's just the way that Venus-Jupiter is going to work. So let me look at the composite chart, and, you know, him hearing you, unfortunately, he's not gonna hear you because your guys' Mercury's also quincunx each other. So it's a matter of not playing into the tantrum. When you're like, that's enough, I'm good, I'm done, like I can't do this anymore. Not only do I not want to communicate, but I'm asking you to just leave me alone. You can't communicate back, right? Our way of relating to the world and each other aren't compatible. Said the Capricorn to the Leo. You know, it's just you're very matter of fact, and you got all that Capricorn and some Scorpio and some Libra. You're very assertive. I can see that about you. And when he wants something, it's like a dog with a bone, right? You know, he's just not going to go away. Like, and if you leave that door open, he's going to keep coming back. And if he says, no, we can work on it, we can make this work, let me just talk to you, let's talk about it, you're going to talk, it's going to talk in circles. It's going to drive you fucking insane because you guys have that Mercury, Jupiter in conjunct. It's like you guys are speaking two different languages. Like, everything you say to him goes in one ear and out the other. So it's not a matter of trying to get him to get it. It's a matter of going like, I know he's not going to get it, so I'm not going to even explain it. It's just, hi, I'm done. Unfortunately, that's the way that it's going to have to be. The composite chart, oh, here we go. An eclipse that's happening in your 7th house, and it's conjunct your guys' Chiron, and it's sextiles. The problem is that this chart says it's on the verge of possibly getting more serious. Maybe there's this feeling that you're like, if I stay any longer, he's going to like try to move in with me or like wear my skin. I don't know. But there is this feeling of you looking at it going like, this is getting a little too close for comfort for me. And there's some truth to this. I would say do it while the eclipse happens because Mars is on the south node. That's the ruler of this chart. And I actually think that you're going to have to communicate and express boundaries relating to your home. So if he's got keys or locks or codes, it's like, I need that back, unfortunately. And I would do it on the eclipse because that's like a clean slate. If you don't do that, you're going to wish you did it. It's going to play out until the 15th. It's going to square Saturn, and you're going to have a showdown probably in one of your guys' homes, and you're going to be like, get out of here, and he won't leave. Right? So it's like, honestly, don't drag this out until next year. Or, excuse me, till the later eclipse. Also, when Mars comes into conjunction with your moon, the funny thing is I can tell that you guys are like, you're very different people, but there's a lot of chemistry here. You know, Moon Mars in the 5th house is like, it just wants to have sex. It's like very passionate. There's like this real passionate connection. But even with this, the Moon Mars quincunx is the sun. So one person wants to be in charge. One person acts like a child throwing a tantrum. You might look at it as like, I couldn't take this relationship seriously. How could I, move forward with this person? It's fun in a physical sense, and it's fun if it's like dating, but like in the real world, this relationship, you probably look at it and go like, this isn't going to work because we live such different lives. So I would say sometime between the 30th and the 15th, not because of the eclipses, but because of how it's aspecting your chart. But even then, know that he's not going to want to go away. And if you drag this out until you guys have your Uranus opposition, it'll get ugly. July and August, it'll just progressively get worse because people are going to start getting confrontational. So I get it, but I genuinely kind of feel like you got to cut the physical connection off because there's such a strong physical connection there that, I don't know, something about that makes me feel like, be careful. Yeah, I have a feeling. Moon Mars in the 5th house, that's fun. It's really good sexually, but it's like dealing with a child. So, and as a Sag rising and a Sag Venus, oh boy, there's new stuff on the way. I'll tell you that there's better connections that are going to happen for you, like at the end of May. From the end of May through August, you might have another person who comes in and you kind of go back and forth and you're kind of deciding who you want. Like, he's always going to be around. You know what I'm saying? And then when your chart ruler, Jupiter, goes into Taurus, this will be next summer, it even gets better. So it's like things are progressively going to get better. You're going to bring somebody in who's less dramatic, who's going to be a little bit more calm. Even though Uranus is a bit of a wild card, I think that you're just going to have a little bit more stability with a romantic partner. But I'm all for having a person in my 8th house. I like that personally. Like, I like Taurus energy because it balances me out, but I'm not for the quincunx. And whenever you guys get into it, you're always going to find that, like, you're like, why am I the adult in the room? And I'm dealing with a tantrum, a child that's having a tantrum. Especially a man who's got Venus and the Sun and Mercury conjunct, that's like love, drama, it's always on their mind. Like, there's this sense of like needing to have the passion and the back and the forths, and they're romanticizing the idea of a relationship, but the Capricorn in you is like, okay, get real. It can't be like this all the time. It's draining, So just food for thought. It's easier to make that segue with the eclipse that's coming on the 30th, and get those keys back. Okay, please get the keys back so he's not just like showing up at your house and you're not having a showdown with him with that composite chart. All right, so let's see. We've got Maria. And that is December 12th, 1987. At 12:12 a.m. Ooh, you're asking about the eclipse. And that was in West Palm Beach, Florida. You're welcome. Good luck with that, Leo. Maria says, what do I need to know about the eclipse coming up? Well, the eclipse is going to be at 11 degrees of Taurus, which you'll hear for Virgo rising is whole sign 9th. Yeah, but it's in your 8th. So it's going to be changes and transformations of beliefs, possibly things going on revolving around if you want to invest in travel or if you want to invest in education. That could be something else that comes up. This eclipse is going to trine pretty closely your Neptune, which is the ruler of the 7th house. So that could be like connecting with romantic partners at a distance. That could be changing your beliefs in love and relationships. Really, the list goes on. There's a lot of stuff that can happen with that. But being that you're a Virgo and it's making an Earth trine to your ascendant, it's making an Earth trine to slightly your Neptune and your Venus, pretty darn good. You've got something that's turning over in your 8th house, which is about new opportunities to bring in more resources. It can represent making changes and transformation in your resources in general. I definitely feel like also this is about like uncovering where you've been afraid of opening up with intimacy. So if you've been afraid of opening up to somebody, and clearing out the past, right? Because it's involving the sun. The sun rules your 12th house. There can be a really prominent ending and new beginning. Maybe you're focused on paying something off. So I've seen with like eclipses in the 7th house, it's like, okay, I want to pay off a card or I want to pay off a debt or a loan. And this eclipse is in opposition to your Pluto and your Mars. So I don't know if you're aware of that, but Pluto rules your 3rd house of communication, vehicles, siblings, travel. Mars also rules your 3rd house and your 8th. So here's a question that I have for you. Do you have a car loan to pay off? Do you have a student loan that's looming? Is there a credit card you've been wanting to pay off? Are you thinking about paying for a new educational opportunity or possibly paying for a trip and you're like, how do I do this? Is there anything like that going on? Pluto and Mars are the badasses of astrology. So I kind of feel inclined to tell you, being that you have Pluto and Mars, which is your spending power in your 2nd house, and the eclipse is going to be in opposition to that. Number 1, do not get any surgical procedures. No. Don't go ham and drop a bunch of money on getting a new car or a loan or a lease. I would say be careful with that. 3, because it's happening at an 11, which is a very Aquarian degree, it looks like there's going to be something that's going to turn on itself. Like suddenly there's going to be a change in your resources. There we go. That's a goal within 3 years of loans paying off. So you want to use this eclipse to go, I'm paying this off. It's not going to take you 3 years. It's not going to take you 3 years. You're going to come up with a plan, a financial plan to not just pay stuff off, but also save money. Okay, this is also trining Neptune and Venus in your 5th, which means that you're going to get creative with how you're going to do this. You might go, do I start a side hustle? Do I take some money that I've been saving and do I invest it with hopes that it's going to actually multiply so I can get out of debt? Use this eclipse to come up with a plan. Sit down and start thinking about how much money you're paying on just excessive things, traveling, spending, shopping, going out, whatever. Come up with a budget. Start planning on setting money aside, but I'm going to tell you that you actually have some kind of chunk of change that's coming in unexpectedly. It can take up to a year. I think it's probably going to be when Venus gets into your 8th house. So that'll be around May 18th through the end of May. You're going to take some of that resources and you're going to start paying something off the end of June. And when you have your Jupiter return fully go into the 8th house, it's going to give you the opportunity to pay off debt. Somebody might help you pay off debt. They may offer to help you get out or give you like a installments of some kind, or they might offer to help you refinance something so you're getting a better rate. But I don't think it's going to take you that long to pay off your debt. I look at Jupiter going into your 8th house and it's going to trine your sun and your Saturn. It's going to get cleared. Some of them might actually some of these debts may actually get cleared. I don't know how or why. If you're requesting like some kind of request to have some of it partially paid. I don't know. It depends on what it is and where you're living, but I don't think it's going to take that long. That eclipse tells me you're going to start getting creative with how you're going to pay it off though. So once it's paid off, the plan is going back out as an expat and getting positioned in another country. Yeah, it's not going to take you that long though. You may find that if you're looking at trying to get a job in another country, that's going to help you relocate. Look for jobs and positions that are going to have benefits, or they may even have a signing bonus, because that can be something that can also help you get out of debt. But that's Mars and the 8th house. So the eclipse is saying it wants to eradicate this. And if you do end up having a chunk of change coming in the next year or two, like I think you will, especially when Jupiter goes into Taurus, that's going to be a while. But when Jupiter starts coming into conjunction with Uranus and it opposes all this stuff, you're going to start paying a big chunk of it off in summer of 2023. Why? Because it's also going to trine Pluto, and because it's also going to start sextiling Saturn. So come up with a plan, use that for the eclipse. Watch out though, because that eclipse might bring something in, like a nice shiny object that you want to drop some money on. And I would say, don't do it. Don't take the bait. And be mindful with cybersecurity. With that eclipse in opposition to Mars and Pluto, make sure you double, triple check all your passwords. Make sure you're checking all your online accounts. If there's anything suspicious or you get the impression that somebody's trying to break in or they have your password, you may need to go in and really check all your securities and make sure that it's solid. And Uranus and Taurus in opposition to Pluto and Mars, I would say if you have cryptocurrencies, make sure they're safe. If you don't, consider looking into them, because people who are going to have Jupiter Uranus transit through their 8th, so like late degree Virgo risings or Libra risings in general, can make a substantial amount of money in the next year with the Jupiter Uranus conjunction in their 8th house. So maybe it's like looking at, well, do I learn about crypto? Do I trade some cryptos, right? So come up with a plan. I would love to hear how that plays out for you. So please come back to this video and leave me a comment, especially after, like, give it till about mid-May. I want to hear what happens with that eclipse. Is there something that comes up and you find out there's a program that will pay off your debt if you do something, or they'll help you lower the interest rates, or like whatever. Maybe it's going to be something that's forgiven. Whatever it is, it's going to be unexpected. And it might be that you get a job and you're talking about relocating for that work and you're like, I have to pay stuff off before I leave. You might get a signing bonus. So let me know. Let me know how that plays out. I'd love to hear. But definitely an eclipse in opposition to Mars and Pluto. Take it easy the days revolving around the eclipse. Don't be doing anything dangerous, please. Okay, be careful with anything hot or sharp objects. You've had Uranus in opposition to that for a little while. How was Uranus in opposition to your Mars? Did that materialize as you having to go into debt? Is that what that was about? I have Mars and Pluto in Scorpio too in my 2nd house. And having Uranus in opposition to Mars was a lot. And having Uranus come into opposition with my Pluto has been like, ugh. I'm over it. But I paid everything off. That was the one thing I did. I was like, I'm fucking paying everything off. Let me know. Going on vacation. Exciting. Okay. Well, just take it easy. Don't be speeding. Don't be doing anything crazy. And I would say watch out with food that you're eating. Okay. Make sure that it's coming from a reputable, clean source, because the 2nd house is what you put in your mouth. Uranus rules restaurants. So you want to make sure you're eating somewhere that's cleanly. Otherwise you'll get a stomach bug. Be careful. Hopefully that's helpful. Ellie, I did not forget about you. I did not forget about you. Let me pull your info up here. I know you sent it to me. Where was it? There she is. Ellie Smith, May 29th, 91. Ellie, what is your question, my dear? And that was at 2:16 a.m. in Bellevue. I have been there. I have friends of my family that, well, they're basically are my family that live out there. That's pretty cool. All right, so let's look at your chart. Let's see. Hey, Lisa, nice to see you. Hi, Tallulah. Hey, Michelle, we called final call, but we will be back. Looking for general insight for the next few months, career and love. Career-wise, let's see. Jupiter, Neptune in a square to your midheaven feels a little confusing right now, because it's your chart ruler plus your career ruler, and they're merging on your ascendant, which makes me feel like there's like an old version of you that's dying off, or there is something that's kind of like, what's the word? It's dissolving, right? Like the way that you look at work, or the way that you look at what your job or what your role is out in the world, it's shifting, because mutable squares bring about change. So right now there's a little bit of like, where am I going? What's the plan? Like, you know, what's in store for me? When you start having trines to your natal Jupiter or trines to your midheaven, things are going to make more sense. I'm really excited actually to see Jupiter and Mars go into Aries. It's going to trine your natal Mars Jupiter. So there's a lot more like work clarity that's going to be setting up for you kind of like early June. You're going to be feeling more inspired and you're going to start taking action and making money in a new way. So yeah, like right around mid-June when Jupiter and Mars are in Aries and they are starting to trine your Mars Jupiter. That's actually really nice. It's going to trine your moon as well. Creative work, something that's more self-expressive. It seems like that's going to be coming together a little bit better. I would also say, so your birthday is setting up right now. So 91, so you're going to be 30, right? Or no, wait, you're going to be 29, 31. I don't know. I can't do math. My brain's fried. Sorry, guys. I'm like, let's see, 2022. Yeah, 31. So you're going into a 9th house year, which is going to be a Mars year. So it's about travel, expansion, learning. And when you have aspects to Mars or in your 9th house, things happen. So really reinforcing what I just said, when Mars and Jupiter are conjunct, something's going to start to expand. So from May 29th until it comes out of the trine with your natal Jupiter through June 7th, it's like the bigger picture opens up for you, right? So you're definitely going to see like, oh, now I know what direction I'm going in. Now I know where I want to visit. Now I know what I'm learning. Love-wise, I think the Venus, Jupiter, Neptune setup on your ascendant is about self-love. It's about what you're giving to yourself, what you're bringing to yourself. A real emphasis also on just falling in love with the idea of love, romance, feeling inspired, all of that like Neptune stuff. But it's more personal. We need to see a really strong Mercury transit for relationship stuff to happen. Well, it just so happens that you also have Venus and Uranus getting ready to conjunct your natal Mercury. So it means that you're working harder at finding more stable but different relationships. So I'm curious what's happening here from about, June 9th until Uranus is conjunct Mercury. When Uranus conjuncts your 7th house lord, you'll meet someone. Likely they're culturally different or diverse. You meet them in a very strange way. Maybe they're from a different country. Maybe you start talking to them and they're abroad or they're at a distance. Maybe it's like a secretive kind of back and forth thing. Maybe it's somebody that you were wanting to reach out to that you were a little hesitant to talk to, and then you guys end up talking. Culturally or actually at a difference is what's most likely, though, with that conjunction. Notice that you have Mercury opposed Pluto, too. So you must have some strong opinions about relationships, and, it does kind of seem to suggest that there can be periods where you need time apart from people and you would rather be alone, and then periods where you're really fixated on finding someone. So Uranus conjunct your Mercury is going to definitely liven up your relationship life, but it's also in opposition to Pluto. So once again, at a distance, right? Pluto is the lord of your 9th house. So start meeting people outside of your local spots. Like start meeting people who you're going to be connecting with online, especially if you have an interest in art or finances or anything relating to information with like updates in technology, because Uranus is conjuncting Mercury. I'm wondering if you're wanting to learn about new artistic or creative endeavors, or you're learning more about investments or what people are building when it comes to tech or financial security, because it's all conjunct Mercury in the 2nd. So start joining groups and associations and networks and stuff with people who are in other places and focus on the connection. That's the advice I would give you. You just came out of a 8th house. Well, you're coming out of an 8th house year. So 8th house year is about transformation. You're going into a 9th house year here at the end of May. So you also want to pay attention to when planets are conjuncting your natal Jupiter. And I have a feeling that there's more setting up for just like romance, excitement, like traveling more the end of August. And it'll be pretty much August through about December that there's going to be more action in that regard. Uranus is not just conjunct Mercury, but it's also trining your 7th house. So somebody's definitely going to come in. Look for a Taurus, look for a Virgo. It could be for a Libra. That's another way that I can interpret it. You might meet them while you're doing some kind of analysis. So you're assessing charts or you're perfecting something, a technique involving money or a technique involving art. One of those two things is going to come in and you will connect with someone. And they'll be intense. They might talk a lot with Mercury in opposition to Pluto. They know a lot about resources, investments, finance, or they're really passionate about studying or researching. And you guys will talk a lot about this stuff. But, you know, you got Venus conjunct the South Node. And there is this feeling when it comes to relationships of like, am I ever going to be fulfilled? You know, am I ever going to get what I want? Am I ever going to get enough? Between that and also your Mercury opposed Pluto, it's like you need somebody who can really go deep with you. And it's, yes, oh, thank you. Somebody who's going to come out of nowhere. Like you're not going to see this coming. And it's going to be really good for you because it's also at a 17. So they'll be really romantic and playful and creative. And yeah, I think it's going to be really great because it's not just conjuncting your Mercury. It's also sextiling your Venus. So it tells me that like stuff is actually going to set up, but you'll meet them in the most unusual, unexpected ways. And it's always like when you're focusing on your 2nd house stuff. So working with money, eating, learning how to cook something, you know, talking to people about recipes, learning about trading and stocks. There's going to be something like that that's going to interest you, and that's how you're going to meet that person. I'll also say that with Juno and Saturn being in Aquarius in your 12th house, likely this is somebody who is culturally different, or they're from a foreign country, or they're like abroad. So don't be surprised if you get into one of these like groups online that you're more so affiliated with, you start talking to somebody and then you find out they live somewhere else. But yeah, you may end up with somebody who has some kind of Virgo energy in their chart. Virgo on the descendant, Saturn at a 6, conjunct Juno at a 1, and even, you know, Mercury. They might have some connection with like food preparation, money, stocks, handling, trading, because they have Mercury in the 2nd. So they work with that. Taurus is either food, coins, resources, banking. So they'll do one of those things and they'll know a lot about it. They'll know a lot about it because of the opposition to Mercury, and they'll ask you a lot of questions about your interests, and they may also talk to you about how to diversify some of your assets, which can be really exciting. It does look positive. I'm curious also going into this 9th house year, and you're going to have Mars and Jupiter trine your moon. If there's the possibility that you're meeting somebody at a distance and you go on trips together, or you go to visit them in another place, or they say, hey, my family lives in this country, come visit. Listen for stuff like that, because that's all going to be, you know, signs of the person who's coming in. Come back, let us know. I'd love to hear who ends up kind of popping in. So that's going to be it for me for the night, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If you were just watching and like learning more about this, it's an awesome way to learn more about astrology. Those of you guys who are not aware, if you're just new to my channel, you're checking in, I do these videos usually every Saturday. I will not be here next Saturday. So just going to say this again. I will be back on the 7th of May. We'll be doing live tarot. We alternate, but you can catch me here most Saturdays at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Check your time zones, adjust them accordingly. I have videos coming out all week. So tomorrow there's a new astro weather. If you guys didn't already see it, I put out an eclipse video. Check it out. This next week, I'm going to be putting out content on the horoscopes for the month of May. So if you guys like those, there's horoscopes coming. I'm working on them. And I'm going to do a Jupiter and Aries video to talk to you guys about what that transit is going to bring for all of the 12 signs. We also have astro weather next week that is going to be talking about the transits ahead for the month of May. So there's all the stuff coming out at the end of the month. You're not going to know it, but I'm not going to be here. So I'm taking a little bit of time off and enjoying these Jupiter, Neptune, Venus transits. I'm super stoked, but the content will still be coming out throughout the week. So if you're leaving comments, if I'm a little slow replying, don't worry, I'll be back. And I will be back live on the 7th. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. And if you want to book a reading with me, check out my links below. Follow my social media. I'm pretty active on Instagram. You can see my website and you can get a session with me. I'm booking now in June. So thank you guys. You take care and I'll see you soon.